All right, it is rolling there. So here we go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons, joined today by retired Evansville Catholic Diocese Bishop Gerald Gettelfinger. Thanks for having us out, Bishop Gettelfinger.
You're welcome.
This is a first for me. I've never gotten to talk to the bishop, a bishop for that matter, and we've never taken our podcast out on the road here, so it's my first field trip too. So thanks for being patient. We'll figure it out as we go along. But what have you been up to since you retired in 2011?
Basically nothing.
Well, that's not very encouraging.
No, to say it live, I write a letter home to my family every Saturday. So it's a Saturday morning letter. I think I got up to 50 people at this point.
Oh my goodness, big family then, right?
Big family and then extended family and friends and
yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about your family first. So I know you grew up in southern Indiana,
right.
Homegrown bishop here, right? And so where did you grow up?
Harrison County, Indiana, Spencer Township, and 10 miles northwest of Cord, Indiana. So and we had a 2 country school, 60 kids in the whole school. And then I went to seminary at age 13 in 1949.
Okay, in St. Meinrad, right? Just down the road.
St. Meinrad, 12 years there.
Okay.
So, and then I was ordained a priest in 61, and I spent 28 years in Indianapolis. So I'm a high school teacher, and I enjoy teaching. In fact, that's my application, I guess. And I enjoy sophomores, because sophomores know everything, and I know that they didn't.
So you had a slight advantage on the sophomores, yeah. I wanted to circle back first and talk about your childhood a little bit. So what made you want to become a priest in the beginning, or did you know you wanted to be a priest?
No. It was very simple. Because we didn't go to Catholic school, we had catechism every summertime, after school was out. And the nuns from the neighboring parish, when their school finished, they came to our parish and they taught us. And we had a sister who showed them a Maryknoll film of Maryknoll missionaries in Africa. My 3 cousins and I all decided we ought to be priests.
3 cousins, so 4 of you, all told, right?
Myself and 2 others.
Yeah.
And so we decided we're going to be priests. Well, anyway, we told the nun, she told the pastor. The pastor made arrangements for us to take the entrance exam at St. Meinrad, and 2 of us I was accepted, and the other one wasn't. So that's the way it began. So I left home at 13.
And not too far away, but far enough away, you became a man pretty quickly then, right?
50 miles, but it could have been 150. Because we went in September, came home at Christmas, went back in January, and came home in June.
Were you allowed to?
Never left the hill. No.
You couldn't write or call or anything?
No, we could write, but we call was very rare, only if we needed to, by some emergency. But so it was pretty much it was a closed system. So just 12 years of high school, college, and theology. So.
Pretty thorough regimen, right?
Yeah.
So you were ordained in 1961, you said.
Correct. Yeah.
And then instantly assigned to a parish somewhere in Indiana.
Well, I also was told to get my teaching degree. So I not only became assistant pastor at St. Matthew's in Indianapolis, but I also started at Butler University, where I got my master's degree in education. And so that's how it kind of began. And go to summer school forever to get a master's degree.
Yeah. 12 years of school wasn't enough, right? You
No.
had to do that to yourself.
Yeah.
You came into the priesthood once you were ordained in 1961. That was a lot going on in the Catholic Church, and a lot of our listeners are maybe not Catholic, so I think about 12% of the tri-state is Catholic, but the remainder kind of look in from the outside, so we have to approach it that way.
Sure.
But in the early 60s, the Church was in the midst of what was called the Second Vatican Council, where everything was kind of...
Actually, the council was not starting. It started, I think, in 63. And so I had 2 years all the dialogue going on about it, and what was going to happen. Were we going to be able to speak Mass in English, one thing after the other? So I saw all those changes come through.
Exactly, but you were trained for one, and now you've got to learn a whole new
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
I just said Mass in Latin, and then I had to learn it in English and all that stuff. So yes, I was right in the middle of all that, and then I spent the 9 years in high school teaching too, plus being an assistant pastor. So how do you figure being a full-time assistant and a part-time teacher? How do you figure the hours?
You had to be a good juggler of time, right? So how does a priest then become a bishop? It's not like you really campaign for the job or sign up, is it? I mean, how does that work when
Well,
you're elevated?
I think the way it works is as you go along, other people are watching, and the Christian, the pastors and what have you, and they think somebody has a possibility of possible bishop. They submit your name to the local bishop, and then the bishops of Indiana get together and decide is this a candidate or not. And then that name goes off to Rome, and you may or may not be selected. So,
Oh, it's not just a
of course,
willy-nilly process.
no, you know nothing about it. So,
Right. So then you get a call, a letter, or what? How were you told?
well, the Archbishop O'Mara was the bishop at that time, and his mother was ailing in St. Louis, so he was in Rome for a meeting, and so I had the phone number, his phone number in Rome, and so when I got the phone call, it's kind of strange. I was at a meeting with the priest of Indianapolis, which we met once a week or so, and they were all saying, I hear a rumor you're going to be Bishop of Evansville. I said, you're right. That and for 50 cents will get you lots of cup of coffee. So anyway, I went to the office, and then my secretary, Mary Jo McDonald, had to circulate around the office door because I was leaving the office to become a full-time pastor. And she said, there's a strange sounding Monsignor on the phone. I said, where's it coming from? She says, I think Washington. And so that was a signal to me that was, so I said, close the door and then I'll. So the man on the other said, I'm Monsignor Tanusi. He said, are you alone and can you talk? I said, one moment, so I closed the door. He said, I'm calling on behalf of the Holy Father, and he's invited you to be Bishop of Evansville.
Is that an invitation you can turn down, though, or is that one that...
You could turn it down, but you don't turn them.
Right.
When you get an invitation from Rome, from the Pope, you don't turn it down.
You're getting called up to the big leagues,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
So then what's the process? So then you move to Evansville?
That's out of your hands at that point.
Yeah.
So anyway, I called O'Mara in Rome, and I told him his mother was doing okay, and he said, I said, by the way, things are going pretty well in your archdiocese. And of course, he said, so what's that mean? I said, well, I'm going to be Bishop of Evansville.
And that was that.
That was it.
Yeah.
And then he and the Apostolic Nuncio decided when it would be. They only gave me 3 weeks from the time of the phone call till it happened. So everything went crazy. You talk to my secretary here, that all put everything in a zoo. So,
Yeah.
So they got it done though.
Okay, so now you're in charge. You're running the show. I mean, you're the head of the diocese.
Right.
That has to be kind of daunting coming in. I guess you don't really get a handbook or anything to say, well, here's how you run a diocese.
True, but if anyone could have been prepared for the job, I had the opportunity to be a leader. I had the possibility of making decisions. So if anybody could be prepared for it, I was prepared for it. And so it was not, that part was not a problem. So.
Talk a little bit about the, when you're the bishop, I mean, you're always the bishop, but when you're the bishop, say at a church service or public, oftentimes you're seen in the vestments that people would have said that are not in the church would say, oh, well, that's the bishop, you know, with the
Right.
big hat and the everything. What's that like then? Because you know when you walk up to somebody and you're quite, you know, it's apparent that you're in charge and you're the bishop. Was that intimidating to people? Could you sense that, like when you talk to people?
You immediately sense it, then you just come up with something to make something put them at ease.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's always fun, you know.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I mean, you don't really just sneak into a place, especially
Oh,
when
no,
you're
no,
dressed
no,
like
no,
that.
no,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's a big deal.
No, you don't surprise them.
Yeah. Did that spoil you in a way, do you think? I mean, then after all those years of being bishop, where, you know, everybody would notice you, recognize you, and then you retire and you're not doing that anymore. Was that difficult for you to kind of give that up, or were you ready at the time?
I was ready at the time.
Were you?
You get to the point where you're worn out. I lived through the '90s and all the sex abuse scandal, that whole thing going on, and I had to deal with it in Evansville as much as anybody else anywhere else. So yes, it was time to go.
And regarding that, the scandal, as you mentioned, in the early 2000s, late 90s, it changed certainly the public perception of the church, of the Catholic
Right.
Church, I'm sure, a very challenging thing for everyone, and of course the victims. I mean, we have to think of
sure,
them first,
yeah.
but there's no playbook written for that. So how did you get through that?
Well, of course, we had meetings of bishops across the country every year, and it's a lot of time, a lot of dialogue back and forth about how you manage that. And I always always try to deal with it very upfront, so that no one can say, "Well, you were hiding something." No make believe about it. So that made a difference, I think, being very direct and very upfront. So
Yeah. Are you on social media, or do you participate in that arena much, like Facebook, or
not really,
any
no.
interest in that at all?
I try to attract some of them, but I'm not really involved with that.
Yeah, the media in the world today has changed so much now that you know, everyone has access to everyone else, and it seems like a lot of that thrives on division, regardless of you know, whether it's politics or religion or anything. It seems to drive engagement for whatever reason. What do you think the reason is for that? I mean, you studied the Bible and you talked to people and given sermons for many years. What is it about division that is so appealing to some?
Everybody knows everything.
They do. There really doesn't seem to be a middle ground anymore, does there?
And sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's not correct, and most of the time it's confused. So that you try to meet it where it is and deal with it at that point of view. So
you think there's a way out to not be as divided and polarized as?
Everyone has their own opinion about things, about most everything, whether it be politics or religion or anything else. So that you have to deal with it up front that way.
Did you feel like, because of your role as bishop, you know, you're the figurehead of the Catholic Church in this case, a pretty big contingent of people, not only around the world, but in the tri-state, that you had some moral authority? You had to say, look, we need to do this, that, and the other, and that people would listen to you. Was that a challenge?
Well, it was a challenge that did not scare me because I knew what I needed to do. I'll never forget, I gave a talk at Rotary, and they asked me about giving communion to someone who's completely open. I said, if someone is going to be said they're going to receive communion in order to prove something against the church, then I would refuse them. If not, I don't ask. I'm not there to pass judgment. So.
You did a lot with other religious faiths when you were the bishop.
Right,
There were several events where you would have the Jewish community, the Muslim community, and that. What drove you to do that?
Because you're also a civic leader, you get invited to do things. So you get invited, and of course, Rotary as well as these other organizations like that, try to keep in touch with what's happening in the community. So I got invited to give the talk, and especially there was a lot of flap about this, that, and the other, bishops denying people this, that, and the other. And so that I took it head on one. So
Yeah. Um, there's also, in speaking of differences in the society and culture today, it seems like there's been a rise of anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim sentiments, and all that.
I was a member of the NCCJ in Indianapolis. This is an organization for Catholics, Protestants, and Jews. So that I was very familiar with that period. That was like, I don't remember the years anymore, but that's a very similar kind of thing happening. And now it's kind of going backwards again. And anti-Semitism is, quote, the thing to do, I guess. I don't know. But I'm not in that loop anymore. But I know that it's uncalled for.
Well, of course, it's uncalled for. And I guess the thing I don't understand, and maybe you don't, or maybe you do, hopefully you do, otherwise it'd be a short interview, but, people, regardless of religious faith, I think the basic tenets are the same, an acknowledgement of higher being and love thy neighbor, be good to each other.
Oh, sure, absolutely,
That's a very simplistic way to look at it.
And
so why is there so much division over how to do that, do you think?
Because someone would say, I'm right and you're wrong. And once you start that dynamic, then we're in that process. So if that happens, then obviously you have to fall out. So
yeah. Are you happy with how your life arc has taken you through, being a bishop, being a minister for many years, and now, you're able to kind of reflect back on that?
I'm very pleased with it. Yes, I had some days were better than others, and as you are well aware. But you take it as it comes, and then you deal with it, and then don't look back. You can't go back and undo things that are out there in the open. So.
You were talking, as I was setting up my gear here, about losing some of your independence, your mobility. You can't drive anymore and things like that. How are you processing that, where you now have to have people coming in?
I'm painfully, because being so independent for so long, and suddenly that's going to bong. And I think symbolic of the whole thing is when you give up the car keys, that you give away independence. So I'm wrestling with that, and that's reality, because not too long from now, I'm not going to be doing anything. I'll be in the ground somewhere at St. Joseph Cemetery. But yes, it's a struggle. Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you learned in your career, your lifetime? The big lesson, you want to share with everybody else here on the podcast?
The big lessons that I would say that verifies something I always believed. People are good at basis. You start with that, and then you go from there. But generally, people are genuinely good, and I still believe that.
All right. Well, I appreciate you letting us come in and talk with you a little bit here for Inside Look, and it's good to know people are still good too.
Oh yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity for you to be able to come and do this, and to do it in my own house. So.
Well, to be honest, I was curious. I wanted to see what you had going out here, and it's a beautiful place. Bishop Gerald Gettelfinger, thank you so much for being on Inside Look with us today.
You're welcome, and I'm glad I could do it.
Yeah, if you'd like to listen to any of our Inside Look podcasts, you can do that wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch on the 14 News Tube channel. With retired Bishop Gerald Gettelfinger, I'm Jeff Lyons. Thanks for joining.